Hi everyone. Well, at Christmas I talked about what it was like to be a head in a Christian school, and I talked to you about life and life in all its fullness. We're now thinking, aren't we, about transforming lives, and I really think that God brings joy and wholeness and fullness to all of our lives if we only reach out to Him. But we have a role, don't we, in transforming our communities. I've got two stories for you here. The first is of a little boy, and he was homeschooled. He was bullied in his last school, but partly that was a result of his inability to manage relationships well because of dyspraxia. He moved to our school 4 years ago, and having paid for a counsellor and a speech therapist, his life is transformed. His relationships with his peers are transformed, and it's beginning to impact on the home life of his mum and himself. Another story of a family who have 3 young girls who were struggling with home learning and needed a computer. The grandparents had sadly come back from Australia, where they'd buried their grandson from a brain tumour and were very strapped for cash. My mum's laptop was refurbished, and the grandpa cried when I gave it to him, saying what a difference it had made. I think the challenge to all of us, particularly those of us at St Mary's, is to be perhaps less salvation gospel driven, to not worry about having to teach about the salvation message to start with, but use Jesus as our example. Because if we are going to transform lives, we need to get the starting point right, just like Jesus did. Jesus got the starting point right with the woman at the well. She was a Samaritan and a woman. There was a sexism and a race issue, and all he asked was, "Give me a drink." And then he went on to talk about living water. There was Bartimaeus, who was healed of his blindness and then said he could see. There was the lame man whose sins were forgiven, and then he could walk. There was the wedding where water was turned into wine, and the disciples who couldn't fish, and Jesus said, "Put your nets the other side of the boat." We're all guilty about worrying how to share the salvation gospel, but Jesus looked at the people in front of him and gave them a starting point where they would understand. So I think if we are to transform lives, we need to get and build relationships, understand those people's needs, and then allow the salvation gospel and the life of Jesus' transformative power to speak for itself. Amen.